Hey everyone! Today's video is all about growing your own sweet potatoes. Now, anyone can grow sweet potatoes, whether you're a beginning gardener or a seasoned gardener, or you just really like sweet potatoes and they're getting much too expensive for you to continue buying. Well, why don't you try your hand at growing your own sweet potatoes? It's actually very easy, and if you've got some room in the back of your yard or an empty garden bed, this is a really worthwhile crop to grow. Sweet potatoes are very much like potatoes in that there are no little seeds as you would normally get in a seed packet, but the actual potato is the seed. So what you have to do is take that sweet potato and let it grow little nibs, which turn into potato slips, they call it. And then you want those potato slips to make their own roots so that you can plant them into your garden, which will then become their own plant that will produce you some nice sweet potatoes. So I'm going to show you how I did that for us this year. I tried 3 different varieties: purple sweet potatoes, white sweet potatoes, and barnet yams, which are a little bit on the red side. Now you can start these either in water or in soil, and you've probably seen people put a sweet potato in a glass with toothpicks and it'll kind of hover in the water, and that will also start the rooting process and let the sweet potato create some slips that you can use to plant out in your garden. I saw somebody try it in soil, and I don't know if they had success, but I figured, oh, maybe I'll give it a go this year. So I started our sweet potatoes in soil, and then later I put them in water when there was already potato slips just to make the roots, and now they're ready pretty soon to go outside and be planted into the garden. So let me show you all how you can start your own potato slips. To start your sweet potatoes, you could use any kind of container that you have on hand. Ideally, you just want a layer of soil with the sweet potato about halfway into the soil. So I use these potting trays that I have. Because I had a lot of sweet potatoes, I first laid them out into the tray to see if they would all fit or how they would be arranged. And here's a tip to you: when you take them out, just pack them out on your counter the same way that you have them into the tray so that you can easily just put them back in the same way you've already tested that they work. And then I filled my tray with soil, some good potting soil, and moistened the soil before I put in my sweet potatoes again in the order that I saw that they would fit. And the sweet potato doesn't have to be buried, but as long as it's touching the soil and kind of a little bit, maybe a third or halfway into the soil, that's enough for the roots to kind of start developing and give you some potato slips. Once your sweet potatoes are in the soil, you can put this tray close to a window that gets a lot of light, or if you have a growing cabinet, Walter built as a seedling cabinet, which is just an old bookshelf with some lights. I'll make a video about that one day. But it works really well, and as you can see, we've got quite an array of plants happening here at the moment. It's stocked full, which is the thing that happens at this time of year, so very thankful to have some extra sun while we're just moving into spring. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about the timing of all of this that is going to be happening and how early you need to start to have plants ready to put out. I think, and what I've been able to gauge this time around, is that each sweet potato has its own mind and they come up when they want to come up. You'll think that a bigger sweet potato will come up quicker than a small one, or different varieties probably go a bit quicker. I'm not really certain what it's all about, but 2 of my varieties came up well first. Everything took much longer than I thought. I'll tell you about that timing now, but 2 varieties came up much quicker than the other one, which I thought didn't work. But it did work, it just came up much later. So sweet potatoes are not what you think, and so just be patient and give them their time. They'll most likely come up. Now from the day that I planted these original potatoes to the day that I started seeing nibs was about a month. So it took a long time to even see any kind of progress. In fact, I had thought that it had not worked and I should have done the water method and I had messed it all up, but no, it just takes a little while. And I spoke to my sister who's also growing sweet potatoes this year, and she's growing them in water, and hers also took some time. So I don't know which method is quicker. That would be a great experiment to do, but let me just tell you, if you're gonna start them in soil, just give them time. Sweet potatoes do need time and they need heat initially. So wherever you are starting them, make sure that they're either on a heat mat, or what works for us is that our lights kind of give some heat. Where the lights are attached to the plank of the shelf, it warms up the base of the upper level. So it worked really well just to have the tray right on there to provide some extra heat. So about 2 months later, this is what they look like. Just little sweet potato slips. They look so cute with their little leaves. And these you want to snap off and put into water so that they can start forming their own roots. And you'll see that they're actually already forming some roots here and there, but we just want to speed up that process by getting them into water. And so that's just what I'm doing. I snipped each potato slip off that looked big enough to go into a jar. Now to add the sweet potatoes to the water, you would fill a jar with water or any kind of glass that you have. Well, any kind of container, really. I like using glass because I like to see the root systems that are developing and how quickly it's happening, and is it actually being productive. And it will also be a good indicator for when it is time to plant into soil. I started with big jars and then I realized, oh, these are probably a little big for my potato slips at the moment. And so I dropped back down to pint jars. Make sure I labeled them very well because I kind of want to see which variety does best in our area. And I kind of have a liking for the purple sweet potatoes, so I want to see if they outperform, and then maybe I'll just grow that in the coming years. Add the slips to the water and just repeat until you have as many as you would think necessary. Now these plants are gonna get gigantic. If you haven't seen any photos of sweet potatoes, they do really take over the garden if you let them. So I probably don't need this many, but you know, maybe we'll be growing a lot of our own potatoes and sweet potatoes this year so that we can store them for the winter. So I figured, well, I'll just try as many as I can and then I can give away if I have extra. Once I had my sweet potato slips in the jar, I returned it to the cabinet with the light just so that it can continue to do the process where it's producing me some good roots. I also returned the tray back to the shelf to continue to get lights to keep producing more sweet potato slips. So everything goes back to the light, whether it's your window or your lighting setup. Only 15 days later did these slips have root systems like you wouldn't believe. Once I put them into the water, I thought, all right, here goes another month. Hopefully these will be in time, but only 15 days later, and look at these root systems. These things just really want to grow. I love that about plants. They just are so alive and want to grow and produce more. It's a beautiful thing to watch. So these slips are totally ready to either be planted outside or be planted into other pots of soil. Now it's not really the time for us to start planting things out yet. We're in spring and sweet potatoes love hot heat, kind of like tomatoes, so now is not the time to put them out yet, although it will be pretty soon. So I'm just gonna put these into their own pots or a nice big pot with a few potato slips just for the time being until I'm ready to put them outside when the season permits. To do this, get the appropriate size container to whatever amount of potato slips you have or how big your potato slips actually are. To plant my potato slips, I dug a hole as deep as I could because you want to put this slip as deep as you can, which will provide that stem as much room to continue producing roots underground, which is what you want for a really healthy plant. So I just snapped off the lower leaves and buried it as deep as I could into the soil. Once I transplanted these potato slips, I put them back under the light so that they continue doing their plant thing in the best amount of sun that we can give them right now, or to return it to your window so that it gets the daylight that it needs to continue producing what it needs to do.
There is a life I lead in this city, hurrying to cut my teeth. I can take what I need to get by. It doesn't make it easy. The other piece of my heart moves slow, somewhere in the great unknown. When I return from the afterglow, will you carry me like I am whole again? Wait, hold on, put me together, take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all gone. Wait, hold on, put me together, take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all gone. If I could take you back to my youth and show you what I wish I knew, my will is strong with a place to lean. In the moment I hung desperately, the other ring on my wrist is gold, pairing with the light it holds. When I return from my skin and bone, I'm remembering the words you told me. Wait, hold on, put me together, take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all gone. Wait, hold on, put me together, take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all gone. Feeling is all gone. Feeling is all gone. Feeling is all gone.
And that's it. Just like that, you have potato slips that you can plant out in your garden this year. Now you'll have to check back in a couple of months when we actually plant them outside, and then a few more months when we harvest these sweet potatoes to see how everything went. But I hope that this has been helpful to you and that you feel confident that you can do this. You can go buy some sweet potatoes and start your own slips, have them ready for the garden, and eat your own grown sweet potatoes. Alright, well, happy sweet potato planting, friends, and stick around. Then you can catch some of our next videos. See ya.